This is a Triple J podcast.
Have you ever noticed that we tend to queue up in a snake formation when we're left to our own devices? Dr. Karl confirms that is a thing and why on today's episode of Science with Dr. Karl. We also get into this breaking news story about astronomers detecting signs of life on a distant alien planet, some of the most convincing evidence yet. And we also get serious about whether chocolate is better refrigerated or room temperature. I'm Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen, filling in for Lucy Smith. Let's get into it. Dr. Karl, how are you?
Good morning. Look, fabulous to be with you, Dr. Jaimee.
It's so nice to be with you. It's actually such an honour. And look, I was doing my radio shift earlier and from Triple J News, Jack James himself came storming into the studio and said, Jaimee, you may be doing Science Hour on what could be quite a momentous day for science. So I don't know if you've seen this yet, but an article has just come out, a pretty reputable looking one, saying that the most compelling evidence yet for life on an alien planet may have just been found. So scientists have detected the chemical fingerprints, is what they're calling it, of gases produced only by biological processes on a planet called K2-18b. What I want to know is how much hype is this and how real is this? Like, what does this kind of mean?
It's highly probable at this stage, highly probable. So this is a fairly close planet, 124 light years away. By the way, the furthest that we humans have ever travelled is about 1.5 light seconds, which is the moon. We haven't gone to Mars, which is about 20 light minutes, or Pluto, which is 20 light hours, or the nearest star, which is 4 light years. It's 120 light years. So that's where it is. And it's about 2.5 times the size of the Earth. It's what you call a super Earth. And we're seeing a chemical that is produced by life and it shouldn't be there in a stable situation. So let me give you a hint. So firstly, in our solar system, we have found 4 places, not on Earth, where there are underground oceans of water. And one of them, Enceladus, which is a moon going around Saturn, we have definitely seen the chemicals that can be used to make up life.
Okay.
Like water and phosphates and nitrogen and various other chemicals. But we haven't actually found the chemicals that are the byproducts of life. So how do you find them? Do you remember that album Dark Side of the Moon where there's a prism and white light goes in?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay, so the white light comes in and it comes out as rainbow. And if you got a really good, careful prism and you really, really examine the light carefully and you spread it out, not just over like a few centimetres, but like over a couple of metres, and you look at it at the light coming from anything, you'll see there's spikes.
Okay.
And each element of the periodic table is about 90 or so, has its own particular set of spikes. And as an example, helium is called Helios because it was discovered in the sun. We discovered it on the sun before we discovered it on Earth. And we have found the spikes in the light associated with a chemical called dimethyl sulfide.
Yes.
Okay, now let's just do a little bit back up here. The reason, the Australian outback is red?
Yep.
The Australian outback is red because of rust.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the very early days, there was no oxygen on Earth for a couple of billion years. And iron was around, and it was just naked iron. And then photosynthesis happened, where plants started sucking energy from the sun. They threw out oxygen as a toxic chemical. They killed all the other life on Earth, basically. And the oxygen combined with the iron to make rust. And so the reason that we've got the red outback of Australia is these big mountains of iron ore on the west coast of Australia, and the wind blows them across. So there's rust. So the point is that the oxygen would always get mopped up, and you'd need a fresh source. And so after a while, if there wasn't photosynthesis, the oxygen will all get used up. And the same with dimethyl sulfide.
And this is what they've found on this planet K2-18b.
Yeah, very romantic name. I think we have to have a competition on Triple J to
Right?
give it a better name.
So dimethyl sulfide is on this planet. Does that mean that there's definitely life on the planet or no?
No. The thing is that the only way that we know of that dimethyl sulfide can be produced is by biological processes.
Okay.
And the chemists are pretty good, and there might be another way that they haven't thought of, but we're pretty sure that that's the only way it can be made, in the same way that the only way oxygen gets broken up from water is by photosynthesis. And you've got to keep on pumping it out all the time. So we reckon that there's a good hint. Today was the big day, which is the 17th of the 4th of the 25. You and I were there when it happened, Dr. Jaimee.
Yes, a momentous day in science. Okay, Dr. Karl, let's get into some questions from listeners. We're talking to Kara in Mudra in Queensland. Kara, what's your question for Dr. Karl?
Hi, Dr. Karl. So my question is, when you put a script in at the pharmacy and they ask, would you like the cheaper brand, is there actually any difference and a reason I should say yes or no to this?
You're lucky that you live in Australia because we have a government that looks after the properties of the chemicals and therefore it is safe. So you've heard of the chemical melatonin?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay. So if you buy melatonin through a doctor getting a script and you go to a pharmacy and on the packet it says 10 milligrams of melatonin per tablet, you can be pretty damn sure that somewhere between 9.99 and 10.01. It's really close to 10. But if you go into a wellness shop or order 10 milligrams of melatonin over the internet, you're going to get something, and we've measured it, between 80 and 50.
Yeah, wow.
Okay. So in Australia, the way the system works is that there's this thing called copyright. The drug company spends billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars, coming up with new drugs. So you think, gee, it's hard for them. And then they've only got a patent for 15 or 25 years. But before you start feeling sympathy for them, most of their budget is not on the science but on marketing. Okay, so they've got there's this short period of time when they're the only one allowed to make this new type of penicillin or painkiller, and then it goes out of copyright and everybody can make it. So in Australia, you're safe with getting the generic brands if they're cheaper, and just check with your doctor because they might have found some reactions, but in general, you're safe getting them here in Australia. Other countries, not so safe.
There you go, Kara.
Thank you.
Very good to know. Okay, on Triple J, it is Science Hour with Dr. Karl. And Shannon in Toowoomba has a question. Shannon, how are you going?
G'day guys, good thanks. Yeah, I've got a question about eye colour. So my eyes are brown and my partner's eyes are hazel. And we had a beautiful baby girl last year, born with sky blue eyes. And now so we thought, originally they say that the eye colour changes after 3 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
But she's 8 months old now and still sky blue eyes. I'm just wondering, because apparently I've read that usually the dad's genes are the most dominant in the eye colour of their kids.
Not necessarily. It's roughly 50-50. So this is something you do when you're studying medicine. You go walking down the street and you look at a family going out for a walk on Sunday and you'll think, gee, they all look like a mixture. Or, gee, they look like the mum. Or, gee, they look like the dad. Yeah. On average, it's 50-50, but you can have cases where it's 80% the mum or 80% the dad, and it varies through it. Going back to the blue eyes itself, what happens is that you have what are called recessive and dominant genes, and in this case, brown is dominant over blue. So you might have, say, 2 genes for eye colour, a blue and a brown. Your partner might have a blue and a brown. Then the child will have most chance of coming out with brown eyes, but occasionally you just get the 2 blue genes meeting in the baby. In that case, the baby comes out with blue eyes. So your chances are when you're mixing and matching blue and brown, you can either have brown genes, in which case it's brown blue, in which case it's brown, blue brown, one from the one father, in which case it's
my
brown.
My partner's hazel and I'm brown, so she might have a blue receptor too.
Yeah, hidden there. And okay, now that is correct. What I've given you is a very simple explanation, and there is a saying in physics that for every problem, there is a solution that is simple and elegant and easy to understand and 100% wrong. And when you talk to the geneticists, the explanation that I've just given you, which I've been taught in school, they say, oh, that is so wrong. And then they spend an hour explaining it and you go, oh, is that what happens? Can you shorten it down into 2 minutes? No. So, but basically, it's the dominant gene kicking through. So that's how it happens. And the blue gene can hide in the background for generations.
There you go, Shannon.
So eight months later, so her eyes won't change colour. They'll probably stay blue now.
They might go a little bit darker. Keep an eye on it. Let us know.
Yeah, right, that sounds good.
Please keep us informed. Shannon, have a great one. You're listening to Science Hour with Dr. Karl on Mornings on Triple J. Sean, a listener in Victoria. Sean, you've got a question for us. Go for it.
Yeah, hi doctors, how you going?
going
Very
on.
well, thank you, Dr. Sean. Welcome.
Thank you. My question is, if you can pop your ears for air to go through, why can't you breathe through your ears? It's through your ears.
Because there's the eardrum in the way. So what happens is you've got these two external ears, technically known as a pinna, P-I-N-N-A, and you use them for holding your glasses up. And if you're very naughty, you can put an earbud in there, but you shouldn't do it. And the reason is that the earbud will run into the eardrum after about 1.5 centimetres. And when you're listening to the quietest noise you can possibly hear, the eardrum will be vibrating back and forth a distance equal to the diameter of a hydrogen atom. Very small.
Oh, yeah.
Tiny.
And that movement gets turned into electricity, and so you can hear somebody saying hello to you. And then on the inside of the eardrum is another pipe. So it's not a continuous journey. There's the eardrum in a way. There's another pipe that goes to the back of your throat, and you can have, it's a floppy pipe. It's called the eustachian tube, and it kind of drains downwards, and it can get blocked with a rising infection. And by the way, in children, the younger they are, the more horizontal it is. And so children are more likely to get middle ear infections. That is the area called the middle ear, between the eardrum and the back of your throat. So there is not a continuous pipe going through, continuous hole.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sean. You're listening to Mornings on Triple J, and we are here with Dr. Karl. We've got Mitchell from South Australia who's got a question. How are you going, Mitchell?
Good.
Good morning, Dr. Mitchell, and welcome.
Good morning. So my question is that I saw a statistic recently that said we had only explored less than 10% of the ocean. And I was wondering why that is and how many more animals or unknown things could possibly be down there.
And why is it so hard to explore? Well, a couple of decades ago, there was a terrible explosion on a Russian ship a submarine called the Kursk, K-U-R-S-K. Now, Mitchell, you know a 50-metre pool? You know how long that is roughly? You know, you've seen one?
Think so?
Yeah, so you can walk 100 metres, say, in a minute, if you weren't rushing. I mean, an Olympic runner could do it in 10 seconds, but you could walk 100 metres is no big deal, right?
Mm.
This submarine was 100 metres down, and it was virtually unreachable. Whereas on horizontal land, you can walk 100 metres easily. And the reason is that for each time you go down by 10 metres, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. So by the time you're about 30 metres down, it's really black. The pressure is 30 tonnes per square metre, and your lungs are collapsing to the stage that you've lost your buoyancy. And then if you were to just not try to swim to the surface, you'd keep on sinking. By the time you get to a kilometre down, that's 100 atmospheres. The pressure is 100 times 10. That's 1,000 tonnes per square inch. And you might remember a year or two ago, there was a submarine that was looking for the Titanic that imploded. Yeah, right, okay. So there's all sorts of difficulties with going down. So we haven't explored most of the ocean floor. There could be creatures down there, but they're mostly smaller creatures. There's almost certainly, even though Jason Statham is the greatest actor on earth, there almost certainly is not the Meg down there, because for a big creature to survive, there's got to be maybe 10 times as many smaller creatures that it can eat and 10 times smaller of those, so we don't have the whole food pyramid. So am I kind of answering your question, or did I leave something out, Dr. Mitchell?
Oh, no, that makes sense. Yeah. But just wait, one more thing. Is there something that's preventing people from just sending down hundreds of tiny autonomous submersibles that can just scan the seafloor and...
We're already doing it. It's cost. So the trouble is that there's no money in it in the short term. So scientists have come up with these drones that can stay at the ocean for a long time, and they drop by compressing air into a small volume, and they slowly fly down to the ocean with little wings, and then a little motor kicks in, and then they come back to the surface and expands the air, and they come to the surface, and they broadcast up, and there's only to a satellite, and there's only a few thousand of these, and if we had 100,000, we'd do a lot more, but they're not making any money for us in the short term, and so people don't want to do it.
Thank you so much, Mitchell. I hope you had your questions answered. Nicole and Mackay, what have you got for us?
Hi guys. So my question is, when I wear my Bluetooth speakers and I walk near the microwave when the microwave's on, sorry, that was a noisy motorbike. So when I walk near the microwave and it's on, it cuts out my Bluetooth speakers and I can't hear anything. And then if I take a couple steps back, it turns back on. It actually cuts it out. So I'm just wondering why that's happening and is it frying my brain?
Nicole, do you mean when you've got your little headphones in, your little wireless headphones?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because of a terrible coincidence, Dr. Nicole. The microwave, they've been around for years, they heat up the food by making a microwave which has a wavelength about the distance across your knuckles, like your fist, about 10 centimetres, or, looking at it another way, a frequency of 2.5 gigahertz. And by an amazing coincidence, this was the frequency chosen firstly for Wi-Fi and for Bluetooth. And so they're both broadcasting at the same time. So the amount of radiation coming out is truly microscopic, and all it does is heat. It doesn't cause cancer, and it's certainly not causing enough to heat anything up outside, but there's enough background leakage to interfere with the incredibly weak signals involved in Bluetooth. If you have Wi-Fi at home, what you can do is switch to different Wi-Fi channels in the 2.5 gigahertz range, or go to 5 gigahertz. With Bluetooth, I don't know. I think you're stuck at 2.5 gigahertz. If somebody could ring in, Dr. Jaimee, what's the magic number for somebody to tell us what frequencies are allowed to be used by Bluetooth?
0439 757 555 if you know the frequency for Bluetooth. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you, Dr. Nicole.
Dr. Karl, last week you were talking to Lucy and somebody was talking about how our eyebrow hairs know do they keep growing, do they stop growing? And we've got a question coming now from Jason in Little Topar, who has another question about hair growth. Jason, go for it.
Hi, good morning.
Dr. Jason?
My question is how does your body hair know when to stop growing? So my arm hair and my leg hairs are one length, and my body hair is another, my back hair is another, and then my beard and my head hair is just all over the place, keeps growing forever.
Right, so hair grows at about 3 times the speed of fingernails. Fingernails are 1/10 of a millimetre per day. Hair is about 0.4 of a millimetre per day. And it goes through 3 phases. The first phase is called growth. There's a technical term called anagen, but it just grows, and it's growing at 0.3 of a millimetre per day, and this can last from a year to a few years to over a decade, just growing. And the longer the growth phase, the longer the hair will end up growing. And when you're at your physical peak, which is 18 to 25, for a male, you're looking at about, on average, 1/3 of a metre. For a female, you can grow even for a bit longer, say a metre long in extreme cases. You can have hair down to your waistline, right? Then you go into the second phase, and this is a short phase that lasts for a few weeks. The hair growth slows and then just stops, and the hair follicle just shrinks, but the hair is still there. And then that's followed by the resting phase, which can last for a few months, after which the hair falls out and a new hair begins to grow. So there is a different DNA coding for the hair length, for how long that growth phase is for your eyebrows, which is fairly short, because you don't want them too long. And every now and then you have one hair that escapes and you have to pluck it out. And my daughter does that. Thank you very much, Lola. And for the scalp hair, it goes longer. So it's the different length of the growth phase that's predetermined by the DNA in different parts of your body. But every now and then, some hairs will just do something different.
Okay.
There you
Can I
go,
ask another
Jason.
quick question? Or?
Yeah. Over to
If I
you.
get skin graft, does it change over? Like, will it stay that length in the different part of the body it's put on, or will it adapt to where that part is now in the body?
Oh, that's interesting.
Whoa. If you graft some hair across.
Yeah.
Wow. So on one hand, you've got the new DNA in the hair follicle. Hang on, that's opening up a whole can of worms. I think I'm going to have to bail on this one, Jaimee, because if you've got DNA that's foreign, then your immune system will attack that. And, hang on. Oh, you're not taking hair from another person. You're taking hair from another part of your body, your own DNA.
My own body. So if I took my leg hair off to replace, say, my beard hair if I had a burn on my face.
I think it would follow the original genetic coding, but there's a thing called epigenetics, which is involved with queen bees being different from regular bees, and it's so complicated I'll just say I don't know and bail out.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Hey, just quickly, Dr. Karl, Jordan has texted in, Bluetooth typically operates in the 2.4 gigahertz frequency range.
Right, okay. In that
go.
case, you're sort of stuck with it. I think you're going to have to sort of walk in an awkwardly large circle around the microwave whenever it's on.
All right, one more quick one before we go to a song, Dr. Karl. Angus is calling from Lismore. Angus, what's your question?
Good morning, doctors. Just a quick question. Me and my dad have just been at the doctor's and he's just gotten his earwax removed. We were just wondering where that comes from and why the older you get, the more earwax you end up with.
Is that a thing? Is it the older we get, the more we have?
I don't know, unless my dad's got, extra earwax. Seems like that's the case.
This is actually something I want to know as well, because I listen to a lot of really loud music in live music settings. I have headphones on all the time and my ears get blocked a lot. Tell us, Dr. Karl.
I'm not an ENT or ear, nose and throatologist, but I do know this, that the skin migrates from the eardrum out and it carries the wax with it. So if you get a little bit of tattoo ink and you put it on the eardrum, you'll see it do a bit of a spiral on the eardrum and then migrate its way out on the ear canal, and it carries the earwax with it. But the trouble is that as you get older, say really old, like over 21, then the ear canal is no longer a smooth tube like the inside of a drinking straw, but it begins to get bumps called exostoses, E-X-O-S-T-O-S-E-S, and they block the wax. So it's not so much you might be making more wax, but what I do know is that any wax can get caught behind that, and instead of just coming out and falling on your pillow at night. Do you make more or less wax as you get older? I don't know. But is it harder for it to get out because of the bumps in your ear canal? Yes.
There you go, Angus. Thanks so much. Michael in Terrigal. How are you going, Michael?
Fantastic.
And what question do you have for Dr. Karl today?
Dr. Karl, I was wondering if I'm nearsighted and I'm driving and I turn around and look backwards, I can't read a license plate on a car behind me, but if I turn back forward and look in the rearview mirror, can I see that license plate or not?
No, it's still out of focus. What you really need is, so with nearsighted, farsighted, either you can see things clearly close up or far away, and I'm in a situation like you. I can see things close up, but far away, more than a metre or so away, they're all out of focus. Is that you there?
Yes.
Okay, Michael. So if the rear view mirror was actually a camera, then the image is on the rear view mirror. And then you'd be able to see without glasses the cars behind you, but then the cars in front of you, they'd be a blur. So a mirror is just effectively putting you on the other side of the glass. So the image isn't in the mirror. Don't think about it that way, but rather it effectively shifts you to the other side of the glass. So if you're half a metre from the mirror and then 10 metres away from the object, the mirror's 10 metres away from the object, the total distance is 10.5 metres. So you'll see the object out of focus.
Fascinating. I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, and that helps explain why mirrors appear to reverse left-right but not up-down. Just think of yourself as being on the other side of the mirror, and that just swaps left and right, but it doesn't swap up and down.
Got it.
Thanks,
Okay.
Michael. All
Thank you,
right.
Dr.
We're heading to Tassie once again. Bethany, you've got a question for us today on Science Hour. Go for it.
I do. I'm heading over on the Spirit of Tassie to go back to the mainland, and I get horribly seasick when I'm on a boat. So I want to know what's the best way to prevent it?
Drugs.
Which one?
Okay, so the easiest one... the easy one that does that you can just buy anywhere is ginger. That's one of the cases where ginger is supposed to cure everything from sunstroke to syphilis and varicose veins and everything else. In most cases it doesn't, but ginger is one of the few, is a case where a complementary medication actually does work specifically for sea sickness, but not very well, but moderately well. Okay, the one that does work really well is called ondansetron, and you have to have a script from a doctor to get that. It's a fairly powerful drug, but it works. And on one of my Antarctic trips, I was with my daughter, and for some unknown reason, there were 100 guests on the ship. Instead of the ocean was really bad. It was a force 9 gale. It wasn't force 10, but this has happened to me a few times. And when it does, 95% of all the guests are just lying in their room vomiting. Right? And 5% like me are going, yeah, I don't mind this. In fact, I actually like extreme seasickness, sea motion, and the bigger it is, the better. I love lying on the bed and feeling my skeleton moving inside my skin, which is the weirdest thing. So, and my daughter was there with me, and she in the next bed, and she was going, I want to die, I want to die.
Yeah.
And I went on deck, not outside because it was too dangerous, but inside the ship upstairs. And instead of there being 5 people who didn't have seasickness, there were 20. Obviously, they had the good stuff, the ondansetron. So from my past as a drug-crazed hippie, I knew that with regard to drugs, the first one is always free. So making sure that I approached each person one at a time where the other person couldn't see them, I said, "G'day, how you going? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you're not seasick? Oh, how come you're not seasick? I'm taking ondansetron." And I said, "Can I have one? Just one for my daughter." And I did this 20 times. I went back to my daughter with 20 tablets and she was fine.
There you go, Bethany. The first one's always free. How's that?
That's a really great tip. Thank you.
All right, make some friends on the boat, Bethany. Dr. Karl, there's something that I personally would like to know. And I feel like this is probably something you've been asked a million times.
Mm-hmm.
But why is there a scientific reason that some people like certain genres of music and some people don't? Like, is there science behind music taste, or is it fully nurture over nature?
It's a mixture of both. But one overwhelming factor is that the music that you liked when you were in your prime mating period of 13 to 25, mate, all the hormones running, that is the best music there ever was, and everything else is crap.
Yeah.
Right, that's part of it.
Yep.
And then it then follows into other factors. So that's why there exist radio stations that play music only from a certain time period.
Yeah.
Then it gets, of course, more complicated than that. I think we really need a musicologist who's done some physiology of it, psychology of it, who's looked at it deeply to give you a better answer. My answer is very shallow. Sorry.
I like it. Hey, 0439 757 555. Get your questions in for Dr. Karl. We're talking to Carwyn right now. Carwyn, how are you going?
Yeah, not too bad. I love your work, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. What have you got for us, Carwyn?
Bit of a weird one, actually. When we queue for like huge attractions and there's nothing governing how we queue, humans seem to queue in a snake form, and I'm wondering why that is.
Oh, you've noticed that, have you?
Yeah.
Well, what sort of length of queue have you seen it for?
So, or at least 200-300 meters.
Really?
In particular, I was actually looking above the queue. This was actually in the Eiffel Tower. But I have noticed it in other places as well. Like, obviously, you go to theme parks, they're governed. But then when they go out of that governing, we naturally queue in a snake form.
Okay, so people don't necessarily try to go for, I shall be as efficient as possible while I'm waiting in this queue where I should not have to wait in a queue. So therefore, I will queue in a form that allows more people to fit into a limited area. So you're using the available space more efficiently. And while that happens, I don't think that that's what's driving people's behaviour. I think it's the social interaction. People prefer to face each other or engage with each other online. After a while, you make a conversation. Gee, it's been a long day, blah, 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 blah. By the way, just as a little subset, when you've got a corridor in a building, people will almost always, when they stop to talk to each other, go talk across the corridor rather than up, down. And so I've taken the habit of saying, look, this is a wonderful talk. Can we just sort of rotate 90 degrees so we can let people go past us? The other advantage to going in a queue form is you've got better visibility of what's ahead in the queue, and that will make you feel a bit better. But I don't think that's as important as the social interaction. The other thing is the flexibility factor. So if it's a flat space, there's nothing driving you. But if there's bumps like a fire hydrant or some stairs, then the snake-like queue can adapt to form a line without strict rules. And then there's the other thing that we follow each other's behaviour. So if you're looking at birds in a flock, one of the rules that they use, which we've discovered, is that whatever the bird nearest to you is doing, you do the same. And so if there's people in front of you who have gone into a bit of a line, a curvy line, you'll tend to follow them. But overall, it's the intuitive social reaction where you're in a line and you want to communicate with other people and see what's going on all at the same time.
Yeah, right. So it's just human evolution sort of brain behaviour.
Yeah, it's
going
more
with
useful.
the flock. That's really interesting. Cheers, Carwin. On Science Hour with Dr. Karl, 0439 757 555. Get your questions in. Aidan in Victoria, what have you got for us?
G'day, how are we?
Very
good,
well.
Dr. Aidan. Welcome.
Hey, I've got a question for you. You kind of already answered it before, but with this new chemical or the chemical they found on this planet, how did they find it with the telescope? Like, does the telescope have like a probe on it or something? Or
This is what we were kind of discussing before.
Yeah.
Is this the spikes?
Yeah.
Okay, run us through it.
Okay, so do you have a gas stove at home, Aidan?
Yeah.
Okay, this is not a dangerous experiment. So light up the gas and then, not now while you're talking to us, obviously, and then get some salt. You've got some salt at home?
Yep.
Okay, so you drop some particles of salt into the gas flame and you'll get a yellow colour.
Yeah, right.
So suddenly, in the blue light of the efficiently burning gas flame, you will see yellow, and that's from the sodium. Have you heard that in the old days they used to have sodium lights on streets? Yellow lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays we've got LEDs, but the cheapest way we could get electricity was just to get some sodium and heat into a gas, and it was a terrible colour. Like, you look terrible under it, but it was really cheap to run, and so they had sodium lights. So each element, when you heat it up enough, it will give off a certain light, a certain colour. In fact, barium will give you red, which is the red colour in the fireworks. So if you then... So then secondly, telescopes. Telescopes are either visible light, they're looking, with the light that you and I can see, or infrared, that's the James Just Wonderful Space Telescope, and then there's gamma ray and X-ray and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a whole bunch of telescopes that don't try to get an image. They're spectroscopes.
Yeah, right.
They get the light and they put it into a prism, like that dark side of the moon. And by the way, they lied to you in the physics of the dark side of the moon cover. You know how it sort of comes in, the light comes in at a shallow angle and goes horizontally, then goes down, split at a shallow angle?
Yeah.
The angle should be a lot steeper.
Pink Floyd. They led us astray.
Yeah, but they were doing it for art, so I forgive them, right? Okay, so if you've really spread it out, you can then see these bands of even colour, like instead of having the yellow colour being maybe a centimetre wide, if you spread out to about half a metre wide, suddenly you can see spikes. And if you see a pair of spikes, you're saying, oh, that's sodium. So in this particular case, what we've seen is dimethyl sulfide. So you've got an S, which is the sulfur, and I don't know what colour that is, but it's got its own special spikes in a spectroscope. And dimethyl, methyl is CH3, and that will have its own, as a molecule, its own set of spikes. And you find those spikes and you say, oh my God, there is dimethyl and sulfide there, and so they're existing together, and they do not... They get mopped up. You need something continuously producing, something living. So that's our hint on this fabulous day of the 17th of the 4th, 25, that we've discovered life somewhere else. That was our first really strong hint.
That's amazing. Hey, Aidan, like there's
right.
a visual indicator of a gas that you can see.
Yeah.
That's,
that's
really
pretty
cool.
cool.
Thanks, Aidan. On Science Hour with Dr. Karl, Grant in Arundel. Grant, what do you want to know, mate?
Yes, can a human survive without a stomach?
Oh, that's interesting.
They can, but it's hard. So I'm sorry to get a bit dark here, but with a stomach cancer, in general, if you've got stomach cancer, you're stuffed. You got 18 months. Don't bother taking on a subscription to a streaming service. You're not going to live long enough to see it, right? But in some cases, you can get in early. You can actually remove the stomach, and you can get away with it, and it's called a total gastrectomy, often for cancer or severe ulcers. And after the surgery, you've got the esophagus, so the food comes into your mouth, goes through this floppy tube down to that, between your two lungs, and then instead of going into the stomach where it's all mushed up, it then goes straight into the small intestine. Okay, What does the stomach do? It mushes up the food, and also it breaks it down, and also it feeds it at a certain rate of 2 to 3 calories a minute into the small intestine. Not volume, like, a litre an hour, but rather calories, and I'm not too sure why. And so you've got to follow a specialised diet and have smaller meals more frequently. And also, things come from the stomach, so you have to have vitamin and mineral supplements. Does that kind of answer your question, Dr. Aiden?
Dr. Grant.
Dr. Grant, sorry?
Thanks so much, Grant. Science with Dr. Karl. We've got time for one more quick one before the end of Science Hour. This one's kind of people might be eating a lot of chocolate in the next couple of days.
Yep.
Renee in Ghana country. What are you after, Renee?
Hi, doctors. How are you?
Hello.
Very well, thank you, Dr. Renee.
Yeah, happy Easter, by the way. Well, when it comes. Me and my colleague were having a debate about whether chocolate tastes better refrigerated or out of the fridge.
Ah.
I get in heaps of trouble at my house for putting Chocky Bickies in the fridge.
What?
Yeah, which I'm like, obviously, but I don't think I would ever put chocolate in the fridge. Is there any science to flavour reacting to heat and cold? And I mean, surely, right?
Mate, after I've spent a month in Italy, that's as bad as having a cappuccino after 11:30 in the morning. That's some sort of heathen, barbarian, uncivilized behaviour. Getting back to the chocolate. Chocolate exists in 6 crystalline forms, and the one that's the most delicious, crystalline form number 5, the one that melts on your tongue, is also the most unstable. So if you put it in the fridge, you tend to take it out of its beautiful form into another form. But on the other hand, if it's a really hot day and it's melting, go for the lesser evil. We've actually done this on my show on the ABC TV, How Things Work, and we actually go to a chocolate factory and they make the crystalline form number 5 by hand in 200ml blocks. So you can see them working, and they've got this stainless steel plate that's about half a metre across, and it's hotter in the middle than not. They get a 200-gram block of chocolate, and they do the two things of mushing it in and out of the hot zone to get it to the right temperature, and also they move it by hand with a spatula, and just by the feel of what they're feeling with their hands and what they're smelling, they can turn it all into crystalline form number 5. So if you have to put it in the fridge, yeah, but generally no.
Nice one, Renee. Hope you have a great weekend and get lots of chocky. Thanks so much for hanging out on Science Hour with Dr. Karl. Don't forget you can catch up on the Science Hour podcast, on the Triple J app, or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Karl.
Look, it's been a lot of fun, Dr. Jaimee. I look forward to doing it again.
And there you have it. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Science with Dr. Karl. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, get more science on your podcast feed. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, the Triple J app, and we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/Triple J. I'm Jaimee Taylor-Nielsen. This episode was produced by Josh Brennan, and we'll catch you back here next week.
Dave Marchese here from the Triple J Hack team. Hey, if you love Dr. Karl's podcast like I do, you might enjoy the Hack podcast as well. Each day, we bring you the news that matters to you, from the latest science on climate change to what's happening in politics and news around the world. The Hack Podcast. It's your daily fix of the news you need to know. Get it wherever you're listening now.